Hospitality Meets is brought to you by RotaCloud, the staff scheduling app for hospitality teams. RotaCloud lets you create and share rotas, record attendance, and manage your team's annual leave, all in less time than it takes to make a brew. It can also make life easier for your staff, allowing them to check their rotas, request holiday, and even pick up extra shifts, all through the RotaCloud mobile app. Start your 30-day free trial today by visiting rotacloud.com/Phil and find out how much easier managing your team can be. Welcome to Hospitality Meets with me, Phil Street, where each week we take a light-hearted look into the stories and individuals that make up the wonderful world of hospitality. Today's guest is Jo Harley, co-founder of Korero and Hendrick Hyde, an all-round people champion. Coming up on today's show, Jo gives Phil a counselling session.
How are you feeling? How's your mental health? How's your physical health? What's next for you?
Phil gets flummoxed. Flummoxed. And Jo starts a movement.
Forget national service. I think everyone should go and work in hospitality.
All that and so much more as Jo chats us through her wonderful career so far, as well as giving us some insight into the major industry itch that she's scratching with her wonderful company, Korero. It's a fabulous chat with someone who cares deeply about hospitality, reflected in the work that she's doing. Please don't forget to give us a subscribe and a share. Enjoy. And a huge Hospitality Meets. Welcome to the wonderful Jo Harley.
Hello, Phil. How are you?
Yes, I am great. How are you?
Very well. I've got a bit of a cold, so you have to excuse me if I'm coughing a little bit, but it seems to be that 100-day cold that's going around. Keeps coming, going.
100 days?
Yes.
Oh my God, I've not had a one-day cold yet. This winter.
Well, you're healthy. Good for you.
Yeah. I don't know why or how, but anyway, I'll take it for sure. But yeah, how's life? Where do we find you today?
Life is good. I am in the Cotswolds today, so I work from home 2 or 3 times a week, and then in London a couple of days a week, where my resident office at the moment is Brewdog Waterloo, where I see lots of other, actually quite a few sort of hospitality businesses end up there as well.
It's a hub, hasn't it?
It really has. It's really cool, actually. I don't know when this has been released, but Chris and Kieran from Otolo and Tech on Toast, they've got an event there in 2 weeks, I think, called Service, which
is
I'm
probably
really
going to maybe have been yesterday when this gets released. So
it was really good.
Yeah.
I had a really good time.
Let's do a Graham Norton thing, yeah.
People. That.
Yeah, what was your favourite bit?
The people bit.
I like the people bit, yeah.
All about the people. Yeah. That was my favourite bit. Yeah, so yeah, that place, it's brilliant. I mean, we gave up an office in pandemic, just too expensive. People didn't want to come in. We'd been practicing working flexibly for a really, really long time anyway. But actually we were sort of paying for this office that sometimes there'd only be 2 or 3 of us in. And now I'm sure we'll go on and explore and I'll explain a bit more about, but there's only 5 of us now sort of full time in the Korero business. And we've all got such busy lives with our personal lives and what we're doing at work that actually just having a central place in London where we can meet, grab a coffee, we can co-work. There's meeting rooms there, there's podcast rooms, and as I say, bump into people that we know.
There's life, there's energy.
Yeah, it just works really well. And they're really good. They just don't mind you having, I mean, we always end up having more than just a cup of tea, but they just don't mind if you just come in and have a cup of tea. It's really cool. So yeah, I really like it there. And there's a slide. Who doesn't love a slide?
There's what?
Have you not been there?
No. Do you know what? As a podcaster, this is a sacrilege, isn't it? That I with them having a podcasting studio, and I see Chris with Tech on Toast, operating out of there all the time. Mm-hmm. And to this day, I nearly made it in, and then literally as I was going in the door, somebody shouted across the street, "Phil!" And then I turned around, and we ended up going somewhere else. So that is the closest I've actually been to going in.
Yeah, there's a slide, there's a bowling alley, there's an ice cream van, and there is a secret bar for girls like me that like cocktails. If you go upstairs behind the ice cream van, there's a door, and if you press the button, if they're not full, they'll let you in. And it's just the most amazing cocktails. Oh my goodness. And we ended up going there, me and the 3 boys that I co-founded Korero with. And they're, let's just say they're a lot younger and a lot cooler than I am. But anyway, we went there and it was one of the hottest days of the year. And we ended up thinking, well, let's just go and have a cocktail. And it's a dark room. So there's us on the hottest day of the year in a room with no windows and no light. But the cocktails were so good that we just stayed there. So that's a definite recommendation for me. Go and find the secret bar.
And it's not that secret now. You've just given us the directions.
I know. Well, let's see how many people listen to your podcast, and then we'll see how many people go to the secret bar.
Oh, they'll be inundated after this. I mean, I'm sure.
There'll be news. Next time I go up there, they'll be, you can't come in because Jo Harley's podcast said.
But I love that actually as a concept, and obviously we'll get onto your journey at some point in this discussion. But from a hospitality perspective, that's people want experiences, right? So it's something a little bit different and quirky, and it sounds like they've created a space that offers that for sure.
Yeah, sure. I think they called it, was it the Instagram generation, where it used, back in my day, I used to run pubs, and back in my day, it was all about the repeat customer. So we used to do schemes like, the 100 Club, where we had to remember 100 people and what they drank. So when they walked through the door, you'd have their drink ready for them, or people would have their own glasses behind the bar. And even the bar that I ran was a Mr. Q's. I remember them, pool tables, meat raffles, that kind of thing.
Right.
And even then, a bar that was experiential, it was Mr. Q's, it was all pool tables, it was about the regulars and people coming back time and time again. And I just don't think that, because now we've got this sort of the Instagram generation, or this next generation, where people want to go somewhere and they want to show off about it on social media, and then they want to go to the next place and share it. There's that, it's like outfits, isn't it? You don't do the same thing twice anymore, or as much as you used to. So things change slightly in the way that I think people operate to a certain extent, because you want, it's about getting people in the door and providing something unique, rather than people feeling like there's a warm and friendly environment to come. And that Brewdog Waterloo, I think it's got it both, really.
Yeah, and well, I mean, if you get that right, then the power of social media will take care of your marketing for you, right? I mean, I went to Camden Market for the first time. Actually, for the first time. There we are. There's not since. It was the first time, just last summer, and I went with a mate who brought his kids with him, and we went with them, and they had given us the list of places that we had to go. And one of them was because these were the best loaded skins that you could get anywhere, and they'd featured on TikTok and all of that. So you get that right, and it could be a license to print money, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's like anything now, like cold calling, email. When you're trying to sell anything, from a product, a bar, a venue. For me, what I do, it's all about recommendations, referrals. And I still think it's about building relationships. Like, I just am a massive believer. I think you can,
I agree.
Obviously there's loads you can do with digital marketing, and as a business, we definitely need to do more. But actually, the power of somebody saying, "Oh, you have a need, go and talk to these people." I mean, that's immense. And that's what we built our business a lot on, is sort of reputation, recommendations, doing the right thing. And I think that's really important for any business. It doesn't matter what you do.
I completely agree. And I think I like to believe that always wins in the long run. It might not be the short-term transactional approach to getting business in now, but I'd much rather have something that's sustainable for the longer term, rather than worrying about the moment that you're in.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's one business that we work with. Yeah, I think it took us about 15 years probably of talking to that business in one way, shape or form or another, until we actually started working with them. And it just becomes a natural thing that I never think of anything I do as selling. It's just helping people out, making relationships. I believe every conversation is a good conversation, and something will come of it one day, eventually, in the end. And I suppose both my businesses aren't specific to hospitality. They could operate anywhere, but they work in hospitality because of the networks that I've created, and Jane, who I run one of the businesses with, and I was with in a previous life. We like chatting to people and finding out what they do. A bit like you, really.
Yeah, indeed. Well, I mean, we're a case in point, right? We did a speculative coffee chat, 2 years ago?
Yeah, I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that. And and still, with each chat that we have, we feel like we're getting closer to how we're going to work together. But we haven't quite nailed it yet. But it'll present itself in the fullness of time.
That's it, isn't it? And I think we've both talked about before about, at certain points in your career, I suppose you just get on the work wagon, don't you? You get on the hamster wheel, and you just keep going. You get up every day, you do what you do. And then every now and again you step back and think, like, what am I doing and what is my purpose? And I think I know that's what we've talked about. It's like, okay, I know the purpose of the businesses, but why am I doing what I do? And it's funny, we're just at the moment, the tech business Korero, we're starting to work with Rob Lydiard, who founded and exited Yapster, which is an employee comms app. And I worked with him very closely on a partnership basis with our technology. But he introduced a concept called EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System, into Yapster just before he exited. And a couple of our clients use it as well. And we've started using that now in our business. And now I can't remember where I'm going with that. Oh, yeah. And so part of our homework for doing this was that we had to go and read Good to Great, which I read about 1 million years ago. But it just reminded me of that concept. I think they call it the hedgehog model, where when you look, if you imagine 3 circles, and you have a circle is what you love doing, a circle is what you're really good at, and a circle is what you can make money from. If you're doing the thing that joins those circles and in the middle, that's when you know you've got it.
Right.
So, and I was really thinking about that. I love what I do. I think we're quite good at it. I think it's the making money bit that I need to get better at.
Well, it will come. It will come. I think this is the if you're doing something that speaks to you and gets you out of bed in the morning, without you even thinking about it. And, I do believe that when you're doing things well and to the best of your ability, and it really comes from the heart, is that the money does come. It might not come immediately, but you have to kind of stitch your guns and persevere.
22 years later. Hey, look, it depends what your measure of success is. I've had a very, very amazing career. So the business before the ones I'm in now, Purple Cubed, we did that Jane and I did that for 21 years. And you think, were we successful? Well, did we raise a load of money and sell it for a load of money? No, we didn't. Did COVID really hit us hard? Yeah, it did. We supply into an industry that was decimated, right? So yes, of course, it goes without saying it hit us hard. But did we have the best time on the journey? Yes, we did. Did we both have we both been able to bring up our children and to have a flexible work life and make some really, really great relationships and help hundreds and hundreds of companies be better places to work, explore the world of digital before digital was really a thing, and have a really good time on the way? Yeah, we did. So there's something about measure of success as well.
Sure.
And it's not just about the money. Obviously I need to feed my children and, and have a salary, and money is always a really nice, everybody always wants to pay. We do loads of surveys, and if you ask people what they would like most, they're going to say, I'd like a pay rise, I'd like a pay rise. But I can't remember what the stat is, but I think it's after 3 days you forget about it again. Whereas there's so much other stuff that you can do for people that's more than money.
Yeah.
So I think my whole career, it's been much more about if a byproduct of it was that we made so much money that one day I can go and live on an island, great. But also at the moment, I don't really want to be on an island. I want to be here still doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So
yeah. No, absolutely. And I think the thing about the money argument, as it were, which it's not really an argument, but it is now, is that, you're right. I mean, there's a lot of people, as a recruiter, I get conversations with a lot of people who are looking to move on because they don't feel maybe that they're getting paid enough and that they know that they could get paid more. But it's one part of the jigsaw. And ultimately, if you make a move for money, the amount of conversations I've had with people who regret that, it's the most important thing, I think, beyond anything. And your statistics can either back me up or tell me that I'm talking out of my other hole.
I imagine I'll back you up.
Is that if people are engaged with what they're doing and they feel like they belong and they feel like their voice is being heard, that these things are actually fundamentally way more important than the money you get paid for it. And of course, people need money to have a life and pay the bills and put food on the table and enjoy the fruits of hospitality out there as a consumer. But at the same time, if you're in a job and it pays you well, but you don't have any of those other things, it's a surefire way to depression, isn't it?
Yep. I think depression, I mean, it's on exactly that the reason that we started Purple Cubed, which was all about retention, all about like keeping people in the business. When we started the business, employee engagement didn't exist as a concept. So we weren't talking about employee engagement. It was the McKinsey War for Talent had just been released. And really people for the first time were thinking, okay, how do we retain people? Jane and I both have backgrounds in hospitality. Jane then ran a recruitment company for 15 years. And in that recruitment business, before she left, and she did some research and she interviewed thousands of people just by having the recruitment business that she was able to do that in. And she found that if people are communicated with in an adult to adult manner, if they're given development that's individualized, if there's a clear career path in place for them, if they have leaders that are aspirational, and if there are very clear values and expectations within the business as to what good looks like, then pay becomes number 9. If you are paying fairly in the first place, pay is very, very important when you can't live. I'm not even going there with that. That is that's a basic need. We need to be paid enough to live.
Yeah.
And above all that, it sinks down. You can pay somebody less if you properly giving them those 5 things. And it's off the back of that research that business was born, really. And that hasn't changed. If you look at, I read a lot, Towers Watson, Blessing White, a lot of Josh Bersin. If you're a people person and you don't follow Josh Bersin, I'm definitely a massive fangirl there. I read all this stuff, and it hasn't changed. We do things differently. The technology that can sit behind these things is different now. It is. But fundamentally, as a leader in a business, if you're hitting those 5 points with your employees, then you will keep them. And we run best places to work in hospitality and best places to work in travel, but best places to work in hospitality, that hits 12,000 people, over 100 organisations every year. And that survey is slightly different in that we don't just ask people a set of sort of predetermined questions. We ask them first we ask them what's important to them about coming to work. So you go on to the survey and it's like, well, what's important to you? And they choose 6 things. And then we do a bit of a values elicitation type exercise with them. So then we'll say, okay, so you say fun's important, but is it more important than freedom? And you say that the culture of the business is important, but is it more important than fun? So you start to work out what are your top 6 drivers about coming to work. And then we ask them to rate the companies on what's important to that individual.
Right.
So that's how that survey works. So it's quite different.
Cool. Like that.
Thank you very much.
Well done. You may go.
Thank you very much. Thank you. There's still time to enter. No, is there? Is there still time to enter? I don't know. There might still be time to enter.
Yeah. Have a look on the website. I'll put the links in the show notes.
But last year, what the things that were most important to those 12,000 people were working in a safe and positive environment, which you kind of think should be a given. Psychological safety, we're talking a lot about that now. So it's about coming to work and feeling safe. So how are you getting home? Do you feel like you can emotionally share things with the team? So that's really, really important to people. And then the second one is working for a company that cares about its people. And that's the first time that's appeared in the top 3. And I just think it's really telling of this time, this age, that actually people want to go to work and be cared about, which is very, very different from when I was running that pub that I was talking about earlier, where actually if I didn't cry twice a day, my old school landlord used to think he probably wasn't doing a good job and get down in the cellar and do something with a barrel, So, people want that, and they want work-life balance. That's the third one. But the one I keep coming back to is people want to know they're cared about. And again, comes back to the reason why I get up in the morning, is that I want to help organisations help organisations to communicate with their people that they genuinely do care. I've never met anyone in a business that says, I don't care about people. So there's a mismatch somewhere, right? Because we've got all these amazing operators in the industry and all these amazing people teams. And then you've got people saying, we want to feel cared about, yet we've still got a massive retention problem. There's still, there's all kinds of stuff going on.
Yeah.
And there are things outside. I get that, I'm not stupid enough to think that it's all about that. But I think that's why we do what we do, so the technology business is all about having really good conversations with people. So the right conversations with the right people at the right time about their careers. So as an individual, like I can drive my own career. I can talk about my development with my manager. I can understand what's happening in the business. I can say if I want some development, if I want to move on up, I can, but I don't have to if I don't want to. But just giving people the space to have those conversations makes them feel cared about. And I guess there's some people tech. It's there's a myriad of different platforms out there, and some platforms are all about automating processes to make it easier so operators can go and do what they do best. Ours is about enablement. It's much more about giving individuals the space to do this. And so have some time to sit down and think about, what does good look like here? What do you want to do next? How are you feeling? How's your mental health? How's your physical health? What's next for you? And then give managers the tools to have those conversations and have them properly. Because especially during COVID, so many leaders and managers were promoted into positions and just not given any real development about this is what it means to lead a person here. And then for businesses, data is king, right? So you want to be able to see when people are ready to move on, and what development they might need, and who's really, who are the great performers, who might be struggling, and who might need some help. And now it's starting to sound a bit like, oh, but didn't we used to sort of do that and call it an appraisal? And wasn't that once a year? And wasn't that a horrible thing that everybody didn't want to do? And you think, yeah, we're just trying to disrupt the whole appraisal thing, really. Like continuous conversations that people should be having anyway.
Yeah.
They just don't have time to do. And if one more person says to me, but we talk to our people anyway. I'm like, do you? Do you really?
Do you really?
Do you sit down?
Yeah. What's your retention rate at?
Do you sit down with every single person and do you say, I'm going to give you 45 minutes of my undivided attention to talk about you, your career, your performance, how we can help you? And it's not about backward looking and saying, these are the things we want you to do, and are you behaving in this way? Do you know what? We talk to lots of people, and there are some amazing operators out there who have amazing consumer brand and a really good employer brand. And I go in and I speak to them and I'm like, what does good look like here? And it's really hard for people to articulate.
Yeah. But that's probably natural, I guess, in some respects for a lot of companies, because whatever size you are, you probably start as a one site independent business, and over the course of life it's become something else perhaps. And of course, whenever anyone within that leadership team moves on, whether it's the founder or whether it's the general manager or whether it's the ops director or whatever, the culture and everything that comes with that is going to change, because that person is a key fundamental part of being the custodian of that culture. So you take that person out and you try to replace like for like, but maybe the just values are not quite same aligned. So there's a little bit of change that happens naturally anyway. But that then is accentuated, as you say, that if you then have a situation whereby you've got a company who actually does not know what good looks like within their business, despite the fact that they might be doing really well from a business perspective, retention perspective, and all of that. These are the things, I guess, that allow it to, through the fullness of evolution through its lifetime, just keeps its identity really centered around what it's there to stand for, and what it's and what, as you say, what good looks like.
Yeah, I think obviously things grow and change, and I think if you, as a founder, when you've got 1, 2, 3 sites, it's really easy, right? You can go around and you can be insight and you can do stuff. But even as you grow and you can't be everywhere the whole time, isn't it? Shouldn't the principles by which you started the company? People think that if you articulate your values and you put some behaviours behind what you expect people to do and what good looks like here in terms of behaviours, that it's corporate. And I think values have got a really bad reputation in some respects because of that. Because a culture will happen naturally. It's just, as a leader or a founder of a business, you can absolutely guide that culture, but you do need to sort of be saying, this is what I expect from you. If you look at performance, in hospitality, I think it's really quite simple. If you've got a team member and they are living your values with clearly defined behaviours, if they're living those every day, if they're doing their job as defined on their job description, and if they get on really, really well with the team, then they're probably doing a really good job. And if you're a manager, if you're developing and retaining your people and engaging them and doing all the good stuff, then you're probably a really good leader. And I think people get really caught up in sort of performance reviews and how do we need to have a competency matrix over 5 different levels, and all this. No, you don't. You just need to sit down and talk to people and have really clear expectations about what is good performance here and what does that look like. And yes, that can change over time. Of course it can change over time. But I think most founders would like to know that if they left their business, isn't it a really good judge of a really good founder or a really good business if you can just leave it or go on holiday and everything just operates the same?
Yeah.
That's what you'd want, isn't it?
Yeah.
You'd want to go from 4 to 30 sites and know that if you walked into any of those 30 sites, whatever you decide that should look like, it will look the same in all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And that all stems from ultimately the people that you bring into your business. Once you've
Totally.
got a very clear identity as to, as you say, what good looks like.
Yeah, and you want a diverse range of people, but to have some underlying principles about what we look for here. That's, for example, Jane and I, when we ran the business, we used to look for people that were compliant because we are quite controlling, and so people that weren't compliant would. I mean, we have hired some we go against our own advice as well, but we have hired some people that aren't compliant before, and it's a shit show. It just is. Because it didn't work in our business. Now, the one person I'm talking about, she went by saying Jodie Goldman. She's got her own business now. She's had her own business for going on 10 years. She's amazing because she needed to have her own business. She didn't need to be working for two controlling people. Yeah, and I'll just give her a plug actually because I love her and she's on. Is that she's amazing women in leadership. So if anybody out there wants to do anything with women in leadership, she's got a great face forward group for like women in hospitality. Anyway, just thought I'd give her a little shout out there.
Sounds like I need to get her on the show to talk about that. That sounds.
You do actually. You
great.
should. Yeah. Yes, I need to go back to my role of giving you people to put on your podcast.
Yeah, my booking agent.
Yeah, your booking agent. You need to talk to Rob about his EOS journey as well.
Right. Yeah. Well, that all sounds very interesting. Well. Yes. I'm all of a sudden incredibly aware of the fact that we've been talking for 28 minutes and we're literally doing your journey in reverse at the moment. So we talked tiny little bit about what you're doing now, tiny little bit about Purple Cubed. But actually, what I would like to do now is go back to, or maybe we should just do your whole story in reverse. I don't know. What's the right thing to do? Who knows?
I mean, there isn't much before Purple Cubed because I'm not that old.
And you were there for about 27 billion years.
About 21. Yeah, 21 years.
Right, yeah, but no. Let's do this. Let's go back to the beginning.
Okay.
And how did you get into hospitality in the first place? I know that you went into the world of pubs, but how did that all come about?
How did I get into the world of pubs? Oh well, I went to. We'll start from. You probably don't want to know pre-university. I grew up in. I was born in Ascot, which sounds really nice, but actually I lived in Bracknell and then I lived in Croydon. So
right. I'm saying nothing.
Yeah, I mean, and
it's the equivalent of Slough Windsor, I think, isn't it?
Yes,
as in
Ascot, yes.
Windsor is lovely and Slough is considered to be less so.
That's lovely. My mum and dad grew up on the Brickwell estate in Slough, and my nan, they were like I think it was just post-war. She was living in Hammersmith, and the local authority said to her, "Oh, we'd love, we think, you've got 3 kids. We'd love to move you to suburbia." They basically sold her this dream of living in this beautiful green belt, and it was going to be amazing, and moved her out of London, obviously to sell the buildings, I would imagine. And she ended up on the Brickwell estate in Slough, which in the sort of 50s, 60s, 70s was not the most salubrious of areas. It was maybe
an area ready for regeneration.
Maybe, yeah. And that's where my dad met my mum, actually. They met when they were 15, and my mum is the eldest of 8 children.
Right.
And so I'm really lucky, actually. I've still got a grandpa who's alive. So he's 96 now.
Wow, nice.
So 8 children, 24 grandchildren, and more great-grandchildren than any of us. We don't even know how many there are. No one knows, I don't think. There's a lot of us.
Goodness.
Anyway, so I grew up in Croydon and then went to university I was going to do PE sports science at Loughborough, but I wrecked my knee, and so I couldn't do any of the practical element of that. So I'd always been quite sporty, playing netball, dancing, and so I ended up doing recreation management, which was a tiny course at the time, which was still in the PE sports science department, but it was all about sort of the philosophy of sport, the economics of leisure. Really interesting, actually, sort of, apart from statistics on a Thursday morning after we'd been out on a Wednesday. That wasn't very interesting.
I did leisure and recreation management at university.
Did you?
I did, and I did it because I did it because I really didn't have a Scooby-Doo what I wanted to do, basically. And like you, I had some sporting talent. And wanted to pursue a career in sports science, but I was a pretty lazy kid, to be honest. So I didn't really knuckle down at exam time, so I didn't get the results that I needed to go in and study sports science. And so leisure and rec was the recreation management was the backup option. Which
way. Where did you go?
To Glasgow. Well, it was a was a campus of Glasgow, which is in Ayr, which actually is no longer there. They bulldozed it and it's flats now. But yeah, so there we are.
There you go. See,
yeah,
I've never met anyone who's ever done that course before.
Yeah, but like you, God Almighty, when the guy came to us to teach us about economics.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
And do you know that this is there was a big learning for me in this, and I'm going off piste here, but actually there's a good point in all of this, is that highlighted to me that the way in which you're being taught is massively important to how you learn, because here was a guy who was like a mad scientist. He had like mad white hair that just went in all directions, really of the mold for a university lecturer. And I just could not engage with his learning style at all. Was crapping myself ahead of the exam because I was just so nowhere near the subject. And a mate of mine who had got it, had sunk in, did a 2-hour workshop with anybody who was struggling. And in those 2 hours, I learned enough to pass the subject, which was going to be the one that I was really scared about not actually getting through. And he broke it down in layman's terms, like we were all kids, which was perfect for me in that moment because it was a subject I knew nothing about. And so I learned a lot in that actually, that's a big shout out to Colin. I think, we've spoken about this before. It was a massive learning experience in itself to then realize that actually, okay, so you learn this way. That's how you get that information that's complicated. And, if your brain's not used to working that way, you need to be taught that way. So you can take that forward with you then in a learning environment. And that's the same in leadership, right? I mean, it's the same when if you're teaching somebody the ropes, it's not necessarily about you going, I'm going to teach them this way because that's the way I learned. You need to ask them the question, how do you learn?
What's important to you and how do you do it? And it's funny because, well, as you know, like it's the first podcast I've done, but I don't particularly listen. I listen to stuff to fall asleep, and like my learning stuff. So I don't listen to podcasts. I read. So if you transcribe something, I'll read it. I read really quickly. That's how I take in information, and that's how I learn, by reading. And so, somebody, I always say that, don't tell me something. If you tell me something, make sure I write it down or send me an email, because again, it's similar how you take in information and how you learn.
Yeah.
It's so important. So important.
5-star hospitality means having the right people in the right place at the right time, and that's exactly where RotaCloud can help. RotaCloud is the online platform that makes planning rotas, recording attendance, and managing annual leave easy. Its simple, drag-and-drop interface lets you create and share rotas with your team in minutes, while our built-in budgeting tools mean you'll know exactly how much you're spending on staffing before sending the rota out. RotaCloud also makes life easier for your staff, allowing them to check their rotas, request time off, and pick up extra shifts, all through the RotaCloud mobile app. Start your 30-day free trial today by visiting rotacloud.com/Phil and find out how much easier managing your team can be.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. Anyway, where were we? University. Recreation management.
I was at Loughborough doing recreation management. Also doing cheerleading because I'd busted my knee, so I didn't do netball. And there wasn't a dance club at Loughborough at that point. So the cheerleading had just started. I think it would have been going 1 or 2 years at that point. And now their team is amazing. When I follow them on Instagram, I look at them, wow.
This is where our stories now start separating out a bit.
You didn't do cheerleading?
I didn't do cheerleading, no.
Wow. No. You're crazy, because some guys did come to our cheerleading and they had a really good time.
I can imagine, yes.
Maybe you should have done some.
Should have, yes. I don't think we even had a cheerleading group, to be honest.
I probably don't think you did. Well, you'd have to have had, at that point, we were only allowed to be a club if we were affiliated with the American Football Club.
Right.
Yes.
That's just sparked a completely irrelevant memory for me around, Strictly. See, not a hospitality-related subject at all. But I always remember them doing interviews with the dancers around, how did you get into dance in the first place?
Yes.
And they'd speak to, I think one of the male dancers at the time was Kevin Clifton, UK guy.
Yes.
Oh, and I did that because my dad was a dancer, and so I just wanted to follow in his footsteps. And then you spoke to Giovanni. I got into dancing because there was loads of girls, and it was just like, well, yeah, why not, right? Whatever motivates.
Why wouldn't you? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I also did. So went to university, did cheerleading. We won the European Championships in my
wow, so not an
my final
insignificant
year.
group.
So we were good at the time, but and I think my daughter does it now, funnily enough, and I did not push her into it at all. It wasn't like I'm some kind of crazy cheer mum, but it was really good. I probably learnt more from doing that, actually, a bit like you were saying, than from actually being at university, because I took over in our last 2 years. Me and my friend George, we took over sort of running the squad, and you realise with cheer, there's so much. You're reliant on every other person in the squad turning up for every session, because it's a lot of gymnastics, dance, and acrobatics, but you're all reliant on each other. Although you're dancing or performing sort of as individual, like everybody has to be in formation, and you have to have so much trust in your team, because you're either facing someone, you're either being thrown up in the air, or you're making sure that you're sort of spotting and making sure that nobody falls down. So I think that taught me so much around, how you work as a team, how you lead team, stuff like that. And without even really realizing it, and it's only since my daughter started doing it, and she's like coaching some of the real minis, and she's coming home and talking to me about it. And I'm like, oh, actually, this is teaching you so much about life in general.
Yeah.
So who knew? It's not all pom-poms, Phil.
No, God, I've sat. My wife is an ex-dancer, and I've sat through many a program about dance with her, and I think in terms of what it teaches you from a discipline perspective, but also, as you say, if you're part of a performance, you're not the performance. Then, and much you can equate this. Here we are equating it back to hospitality. You can equate that totally to a shift, right? I mean, you're not the main event here. You're part of a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, and you're only as good as who the people that are around you. You can be the best, you can be the highest performer on shift, but if everybody else is rubbish, it's going to be people are going to have a bad experience.
Yeah.
So lots and lots of stuff. And actually, one of the things that does always come high in the best places to work in hospitality is working with a team to achieve results. That comes high up every year as well.
Right.
So that's important. So anyway, so at university, then went off for 2 summer seasons. Well, went off between my second and third, and then after my finals, I went off to Greece. Just as you do, to work in a bar.
Is that just to kind of see a bit of the world? Don't really know what you want to do at this point.
Yeah, I went on holiday with my mate Sandra, and we just decided to stay. And in fact, she then came home, and I stayed. And I stayed. Yeah, I just stayed for the summer.
And then you opened a B&B, and then they wrote a musical about you.
Yeah, no, that didn't happen. No. Stavros, the Greek barber, who used to, by the way, put cockroaches down my top when I had a tray of drinks. We're talking early 90s, top level sexism to the where it was just normal. Like if you didn't get a slap on the arse as you walked past, it's like, oh, I didn't do very well on shift today. It was a different level.
Right.
I used to sit in a booth outside serving drinks, and I'd be sitting up, and I'd have a bit of pizza in one hand, and I'd have my feet up, and then someone would come for a drink, and I'd get the ice out with my hands and shove it in the glass, and
nice.
It was fine. It was
it's a different time.
It was a different time. It was fun, so much fun. And the first job I had was actually getting people into the, those annoying people that get people into the bar. But
yeah. That was one of you, was it? That was
one of me.
Here's a voucher. Go and get all your mates.
And again, it was just fun at the time, because we were just there, just basically drinking for free all night, like hanging around outside a bar. And because I used to dance, I used to be doing cartwheels. We used to be doing gymnastics up and down the road. There was a British girl. She was a British gymnast actually, and she came. I just remembered this. She came out. She used to backflip down the road, and everyone just used to stop and talk and go, "What she's doing?" And you'd be like, "Oh, come in for a drink." It was harmless. It was fun. Yeah. I did that for 2 years, and then I got back after my finals. Had absolutely no money. Moved back in with my mum and dad. And my mum went, "What are you going to do now then?" I went, "Oh, I'm not sure." She went, "Well, we're not payrolling you anymore, so off you go down the job centre." I was like,
bit of tough love.
"Well, I haven't got a car." And she said, "Well, no, I'm having my car, and your dad's got his car, so you're going to have to walk. We'll get the bus." I was like, "I haven't got any money." She was like, "We have to walk then." I was like, "Okay." So I walked down to the job centre, living in Camberley at the time, walked down to the job centre, and I looked at it, and I just had this big fear of, I am not going in there. And I turned around, there was a pub behind me, and I walked into the pub, and I said, "You got any jobs?" And they said, "Yes, we have." And therein started my journey into hospitality.
Wow, there we are then. Yeah. So, the similar story again, actually, from my own. I remember my mum and dad's had a hotel on the west coast of Scotland on an island called Tiree. And when they sold that up, which coincided with me graduating from uni, I moved with them to Lewick in Northumberland, which is where they ended up holding up. First thing I did when I got there was join the local football team because I just wanted to meet some people. And every one of the guys on the football team, who probably won't listen to this, but if you are listening to this, I'm very sorry that this is my perception of what it was like, was so depressed about the area. You know, there's no jobs. You can't get a job. Whereas I was focused on, right, I need to get off and running on in my career. And I actually did go into the job centre in Berwick upon Tweed. And literally they said, oh, if you're available this evening, I can send you for a trial shift at Haggerson Castle Holiday Park. And I went, yeah, let's do it. And didn't have to go into the mix of job centre-y stuff, as it were, because I didn't want to be claiming benefit. I just wanted to get working. And I think I remember learning at that point, actually, if you really want to work, you can work. That's what I remember thinking to myself. But it's just a perception of what you believe you should be doing versus what you maybe realistically can do at that time.
Yeah, I think so. And look, isn't hospitality the best industry in the world that you can literally walk in somewhere, start that night, and I don't know, if my career had taken a different path, I could be, running a hospitality business right now. How many people do we know that started off in a kitchen and now have their own businesses, or are GMs of hotels, or, sales directors of food service businesses? I mean, it really is still, I think, one of the only industries where you can start anywhere and end up anywhere. And it's not a career ladder. I don't like ladders. I like webs. It's just this web of opportunities. There's a lot of right time, right place. Yeah. But if you want it, I think you can get it in hospitality. I don't think there is a ceiling if you want it enough. Maybe that's a bit controversial. I don't know. But yeah, I do believe that. And I was still, when I was working in the pub, first of all, I went in there having worked on commission all summer. So I went in there, it was Thursday night, DJ was playing, Thursday night, DJ night, woo. And I was behind the bar, serving 3 people at a time. Everyone else on shift, literally standing up behind the bar, like leaning on the back bar, like leaning there with their arms crossed, like, who's this crazy chick who seems to just be, because I was just so used to serving people, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, we don't need to do that. We're going to get paid anyway.
You're making us look bad.
Exactly. So I don't think I was very cool. But then, I just loved it. I loved everything about it. And Lynn and Rob, who were landlord, like old school pub managers, they're proper landlord and landladies. They were brilliant, like taught me so much about life. I was probably quite sheltered, little blonde thing, come from Loughborough, cheerleader, woo, and they were just like, we're going to toughen you up. And they did. They taught me resilience. They taught, Rob would always say, nobody's indispensable, and that really, it stuck with me. I don't know if it's true or not. It's not something you can say anymore, but it made me, it gave me a grounding. I forget national service. I think everyone should go and work in hospitality, just to start their careers.
I need to start a movement on this because you're not the only person that's said that on the show, but equally, I'm the more I hear it, the more I'm thinking, damn right, because actually, one, it's way easier than national service.
Yeah.
And two, the life skills it would teach you in however long you were in it would be incredible.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Okay, let's start a hashtag right now. Hospitality national service.
Yeah.
I mean, it just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
Amazing. So there I was working in the bar, apparently looking for a graduate job. I wasn't really looking for a graduate job. I was having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But apparently, according to my mum and dad, I was looking for a graduate job. And then Alan Parker, our area manager, came round and was like, look, would you be interested in going on our graduate scheme? I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. Yeah.
Oh, I'm looking for a management graduate scheme.
Yeah, no, I can, I could probably do that. And he was like, yeah, so, it's training to be sort of like you'd be an area manager and you would go into pubs and you talk to people like Lynn and Rob. And I was like, whoa. I am not, having never run a pub in my life, as a 20-something-year-old, going round and talking to people like who have been running pubs for 40 years and questioning them about a P&L. Absolutely no way. I need to do this myself first. And so I decided to get a license and run my own pub before I then went on, at that point, to do area management or whatever else it was in the business.
Yeah.
So there was a real them and us thing about head office and what was happening on site. And maybe that was just my experience of it again in the early 90s. But I just didn't want to be that head office person. If I was going to do it, I wanted to have some experience and some gravitas. And so I had a license at 25. And then Allied Domec, who I worked with, got bought out by Punch. And at that point, I was ready to move on and do something a bit different. I kind of wanted a bit more of my life back in terms of weekends and stuff. And so I went and I worked for Bacardi Martini, doing sales and marketing for, I think it was only about 3 or 4 years, but oh my God, again, so much fun. Like there was 3 of us, me, Liz and Louise, and we had a flat in Shepherd's Bush, and I looked after Shepherd's Bush, Notting Hill, sort of around that area. Liz looked after West End. Louise looked after West End, and Liz looked after sort of Chelsea, Fulham. And we were all quite suited to our areas. They matched us quite well. And we had this boss called Danny. And again, do we have mobile phones? Yeah, we have mobile phones, but you couldn't check in on us all day. And we had company cars. We had as much stock as we could possibly want to go round. And basically, we had to do 7 effective calls in a day. Now, an effective call was going into an independent bar and going, would you like to put a double optic up? Because then you'll sell more Bacardi. I mean, that was an effective call.
Right.
And it was brilliant. We had such a good time. And Breezer had just launched and was just kicking off. We had a hallway full of Breezer where we were allowed to go around and sample it. I mean, we had the best time.
That sounds like an amazing job.
It was amazing. We had so much fun. But there does come a point after sort of 5 years of having fun in pubs, or 3 or 4, however long it was, and then 3 years of having fun at Bacardi, where I sort of thought, I need to probably take my career a bit more seriously. And I'm a typical Generation X, and really, really loyal. And if actually, on a serious note, if either Allied Domec or Bacardi at the time had sat down with me and had a proper conversation about what do you want to do with your career, what is your future, how can we help you get there? Yes, you don't have to live in Southampton to work for Bacardi. No, you don't have to be in Basingstoke to run a pub for Allied Domec or Punch, whoever it was then probably I would have stayed, because I am really, really loyal. Yeah, well, hello. Then I met Jane and stayed with her. I mean, I'm still working with her. So
well, it did. I was going to say, you're absolutely showcasing your loyalty for sure. But, I think I would imagine, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here as well, but underpinning all of this actually is the fact that you clearly must find what you're doing fun as well, because I feel like that's been a part of your journey, is that you can take a career more seriously for sure, but it doesn't mean you can stop having fun.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think by fun I probably meant I should probably stop just drinking every night, and maybe just maybe.
Well, there comes a time. Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. You'll find me at most black tie / networking events with a glass in hand still, but a bit of moderation.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's about having fun, and fun doesn't mean just being crazy and getting drunk. For me, if fun's one of our Korero values are achievement, authenticity, and then freedom and fun. And that's about just enjoying what you do and being able to see the light in things. Look, we build, operate, and run a system that helps people have good conversations. It's not rocket science, and nobody's going to die if they do. It's important, but it should be. Yeah, there's no reason why it should be heavy or hard or it's fun.
Yeah. How did you meet Jane? Obviously, Jane's been on the show, so she's a friend of the show, I hope. Yes. Jane?
Yes, she is a friend of the show. She is. She advertised. She'd started the business with a guy called Tim Brown, and he was going out delivering training, and she wanted to, and she sort of had the idea for the software, and she advertised for it in the caterer, the back of the caterer, back in the day when that's where you did job ads.
And you're aging yourself now.
I know. Well, we all know I'm old. I don't look it though, Phil.
Not at all.
So she wrote a job ad, and still to this day, I'll say this is how you should do a job ad. It's like a 1-page CV, and 10 was probably a bit much, but 10 reasons why you're the one. So 1-page CV, 3 reasons why you're the one. It just tells you everything you need to know about that person, attention to detail, what they put in it. It just works. And Mike, her husband, was on gardening leave at that point, but he then started and ran and successfully sold Lexington Catering, and he was on gardening leave, and he was sifting through the CVs and he found mine. I'd written in purple, of course I had, and he went, "She's the one." And Jane went, "No, we're going through a proper process." I was the one.
Well, but that's a cool and quirky little attention to detail that, you know. Yeah, I love that. I love that little.
Everybody would do that now, right? But you know, back in the day, you know, it's just it was good. And then then Jane and I just worked together. Like, I can't believe 20 years, but like it's crazy.
Yeah.
And we did so much, too much probably. And we worked with some, you know, we've had some amazing people in the business. And as I say, COVID was tough. It was really hard for us. You know, we obviously worked really hard to be a good place to work, and therefore people stayed. We got to know people really, really well. And, you know, we had to come to the point where we were like, well, you know, for both of us, we probably both need to do something a bit different. Jane wanted to spend more time in LA, where one of her daughters was. I was sort of thinking, you know, what do I do next? What's for me? And so so me and 3 of the people that were in the Purple Cubed business, we bought out the technology called Talent Toolbox, as it was, and we'd been redeveloping that behind the scenes for quite a long time anyway. But we thought, we want to go again with the technology and take that to market. So we were very lucky because we took the technology, redeveloped the technology fairly quickly. I've spent the last year moving our clients over from the older technology to the new technology, which hasn't been without its issues, but I think we're there now with that. And now at the point where we want to start sort of onboarding some new clients onto it, and we've got a couple of new clients that have been using it. And really, that's really exciting. And having 3 co-founders rather than just me and Jane, it's just a completely different dynamic, and it's exciting. And there's loads of stuff that I look back now and go, God, why did we do that in Purple Cubed? And and now we're like on this new journey. But at the same time, I'm really lucky in that Jane still absolutely is working and wants to work. And what her and I really love doing is helping businesses be great places to work. So we work with organisations around employee experience. So anything from helping people with their employee value proposition to understanding what's going on in the business now as far as the people stuff is concerned, and put action plans in place, helping people with their values and then how to embed them. So look, if it's sort of happening in the people space, Jane and I probably handle it. But anything to do with the tech and the surveys, that's the Korero side of the business. And I'm privileged, right? I get to work across both businesses. So it feels like new beginnings, and it's really exciting, and it's sort of just getting our head round. It took the COVID thing it hit us hard. It hit our business hard.
Yeah.
The last 4 years have been tough, but I do feel like we're coming out the other side, and people, probably for the first time ever, are really recognizing that the technology that we bring can really help and really make a difference in helping keep people, for the reasons I talked about earlier, really. And I'm really excited about where we can take it. And and Rob, as I say, is really helping us on that journey as well, just sorting ourselves out internally, just the way we do things, so we can work in the business. We don't have to work on the business.
Yeah. But that's all part of the journey, right? The journey is evolution. You have to, things change. It's inevitable that they do. And I don't think anybody expected the change of the magnitude that happened in 2020. But I think that the easy option in situations like that is to put your tail between your legs and run away.
No.
Whereas it seems kind of just, you've had to sit through what has been a really tough period, but actually through that can amazing things happen. And it sounds like you're now in a better place for it.
Definitely. And I think much, much clearer personally and with both businesses about what our, we talked about at the beginning about purpose. And, I know the purpose of the Korero business is to help people have better conversations, to have better careers, to have better lives. And, we've got technology that can enable team members and leaders and businesses to do that, and do that really well, and fit in with other, in other tech stacks. It's a completely, I'll talk to Chris on Tech and Toast podcast, because, I'm going to be a podcast person now, Phil, after you've inducted me. But and with the other business, I get to help people be amazing places to work, which Yeah, it's a privilege. It's great. Anyway, we're probably about time up, aren't we?
Well, whatever. Yeah. 4 hours later.
Sorry, I know.
Probably should.
I do talk, don't I? Oh my God, when I get on a roll.
No. Do you know what? I made some notes of stuff that maybe wanted to talk about if we were struggling for conversation, as per you would for anyone. I've not ticked off any of these things that are on my notes. The one thing that really made me chuckle from the stuff that you wrote down, though, was and I found this almost impossible to believe, that you have a resting bitch face. Because every time I've met you and spoken to you, you've always been so, even when you've been going through the shit, you've always been upbeat, positive, happy, not happy per se, but certainly the demeanor that you portray to the world. And I've always been a big believer that like positivity and happiness are the things which help you solve problems ultimately. You can't solve any problem with negativity. That's, that's just a fact. So for me to then read that you have this thing on virtual calls, and we're on a virtual call now, that resting bitch face might be a thing. I'm flummoxed.
Oh, and I think, do you know what? It's my thinking face. It's, and it's one of the reasons that I don't like doing public speaking, and I don't do a lot of this kind of thing, and I need to do more. Is that when people are thinking and taking in information, often they look like that, their face is concentrating. It's like a concentrating face. And my concentrating face it looks like I hate you. So when I'm on virtual calls or when I'm with people I don't know, I very consciously make sure that even when I'm just listening, that I'm smiling, or that I've got my face arranged in a way that doesn't make people think, oh my God, have I upset her? But yeah, if you speak to Steve or Sean or Tom, my lovely co-founders who I spend a lot of time on Zoom with, they will tell you that, who are like, you're all right. I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm just thinking.
Yeah, but I suppose right there as well is another example of my chair keeps making all sorts of noises. Right there is an example of a hospitality mentality, because you could just sit there and accept that, this is my face, get over it. Or you could actually then say to someone, or not even say, but you're conscious of the fact that you might be portraying this disinterested look to somebody. So you've thought about how you're making them feel in this situation. And
totally. If anyone ever does any kind of getting up on stage and talking and I'm in the audience, look at me, because I will nod and smile at you all the way through it. Because I tell you what, having someone who's nodding and smiling at you and seems to be agreeing with what you say gives you so much confidence when you're up on stage. Whereas if everyone's just literally staring at you, in my head I'm thinking,
this is not
they'll hate me, I'm talking crap, I don't know what I'm going on about. And that dialogue then takes over what I'm actually saying dialogue. So
did you notice I'm nodding and smiling at you?
Exactly. Well, you're really good at this, and I was really nervous about coming and doing this because I've never done it before, and I'm not a fan of talking about myself or getting up on stage and all of that kind of stuff. And you're very good at it, because you really put me at ease. And I've forgotten that we're recording.
Oh, very good. Well, that's kind of the objective. I want to showcase the best of people. We're not here to catch people out or get them to say controversial sound bites or anything like that.
And it's not even that. It's just that I want to represent, not myself really, but I want to represent like the Korero business, the boys, Jay, all the people that I work with. You want to represent people in the best possible light. You want to give it your best shot, don't you?
Yeah.
And I'm sure, I absolutely will not listen to this. I can't listen to my voice. Even in the pubs, they used to ring the bell for last orders, and I used to always have a bell. But then when I went to run the pub, they had a microphone there, and I would always get someone else to do it, because I just don't like the sound of my own voice so much.
Really?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, you kind of get used to it. I when I first started this, I realised that when I was doing the introductions that I sounded like as I put it, I think a depressed Andy Murray. So he's got quite depressing tones already, right? He's so I guess one, I've learned to cope with the way that my voice sounds, but two, I have also, when it comes to when I'm doing any direct to microphone work that's not just a natural conversation like this, is that I go into Radiohead. So I'm just a little bit more upbeat than perhaps I would be normally. So, but that's, you live and learn. And I think it's exactly the same principle, comfort zone wise, with everything. Is that the stories that you tell yourself, right, are the things that stop you doing things. You've been an absolute natural to have on the show today, and I'm very, very grateful for the time that we've had. There's probably other questions that I should be asking, but you've had a really interesting journey. I think what you're doing, you're scratching an itch that the industry needs big time. So I would urge anybody out there who's listening to this who is interested in any way, shape or form of just improving the way that they engage with their people, is to reach out and have a conversation with you, even if it doesn't go anywhere. And you're exactly. a very open person when it comes to that.
Totally. Oh, I mentor loads of people. Like any advice, I get told off the whole time for giving my time away for free, but it's not that. I genuinely enjoy just meeting people and catching up with people and stuff like that. And also, I'm not going to sell you anything that you don't want, and I'm not going to hound you or that's just not me. I'll literally send you 2 emails following up, and then I'm like, okay, you know where I am. So no, absolutely. You won't get a hard sell from me ever.
Brilliant. I mean, I'll put all the information in the show notes, but if people do want to reach out to you, what is the best method for them to do that?
I'm on LinkedIn or joe@hellokorero.co.
Very good. Excellent.
So either of those. But
brilliant.
So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure as always.
Likewise. Yeah. And
to some degree. That's brilliant.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing your story with the world.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Take care.
Bye.
And there we have it. What a fabulous journey from Joe so far, doing hugely important work for the industry. If you care about your people, I'd urge you to reach out to her for a coffee. I'm going to have a cheeky bonus for you this week on Friday, which you won't want to miss. But until then, thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you then.